Hello and welcome to the Guitar Hang Podcast. I'm your host, John Stancorb. Today I have the immense pleasure of sitting down with a true maestro of the guitar, Andy Timmons, a name that resonates with virtuosity and musical excellence. Andy's remarkable career as a guitarist, composer, and performer has garnered worldwide acclaim. From his amazing work with Danger Danger and Simon Phillips' Protocol to his solo work, Andy has consistently pushed the boundaries of what the guitar can achieve. In this exclusive interview, we'll delve into Andy's illustrious accomplishments, his unique approach to the guitar, and the passion that fuels his musical journey. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button below and ring the bell for notifications. Now, let's hang with Andy Timmons. We both felt a kinship, maybe for me, different reasons, for studio players. Those were my first heroes.
Interesting, yeah.
Because my poor man's art collection was my albums that I would purchase as a kid. So when this is pre CDs and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
and
sure, yeah.
you're listening to the albums with your headphones on, but you pour through the liner notes and you're seeing who played on what.
Yeah.
And I never could look like my favorite rock star guitar player.
Yeah,
I
right.
always admired guys like Timmy May and Dennis Budimir and Dean
Yeah.
Parks and
Amen.
Steve Lukather, although Steve definitely had the rock look. But those guys just to me were like the special forces guitar players. They're like SWAT, you know, because their reading chops and what they had to bring to the table in terms of looking at a piece of paper that might just have the most basic of chord changes.
Yeah.
Ready, go, come up with a hook.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How those guys made their mark on you.
well, very deeply. I mean, like my records were my art collection and still are. But yeah, the endless source of inspiration and kind of life direction and the studio player thing was a big part of that. Why I chose to educate myself or seek out education at a certain point because I'd grown up kind of self-taught. Since I was about 5, I started picking up the toy guitar around the house. My brothers had guitars around the house and whatnot. So I'm learning by ear, by 11, 12, 13. But by the age of 16 or so, I mean, I really knew that this was my life. And maybe like you, I couldn't. I had no fantasy of even wanting to be or trying to be the rock stars I saw on my favorite records, but I love the guitar so much. But because of Guitar Player magazine and Tommy Tedesco having that, studio log column back in the 70s and then becoming aware once I heard Larry Carlton and I heard Steve Lukather and knowing that they were session guys and that's how they made their living. And so, well, that's maybe something that I could do. That's a profession that maybe I could do what I love. I could pursue the passion of music and guitar, but not, figure out, a way to win the lottery, that's what making it in the music business kind of seemed like,
Right.
for many, many years, for sure. And that really was the key. And like you, it became, I was obsessed with anything Luke had played on. I would pour over all credits in any used record store or record stores. And if I saw his name, it was instant purchase. I just had to hear, what there was one really cool record from a guy from Canada named David Roberts. It was basically Toto, backing up this guy, which I'm assuming was a very similar lineup on many people's records was that core group with, Jeff Beccaro, my top 5 drummer for me, and of course Luke, the way those two locked in, just absolute magic. So yeah, I mean, and yeah, the type of mentality and knowledge it took for those guys to go in a studio, okay, live, first take, let's go, and that informed how I treated the rest of my career. I still kind of have that in my head, like, well, okay, we got to get it. It's not always that way, of course, but it's awfully handy when it goes down live, and when you capture that energy. I remember saying that as I got to know Lukather over the years, one of my early comments to him, at one of the NAMM shows where we might have crossed paths was like, man, that's in solo on White Sister, with the way you and Jeffrey lock in. He goes, yeah, dude, that was first take, man. That was live. It's like, that's the way they did it. They just, and the instincts that takes to, to have to create these moments, and that was their own music, that's their band, but of the endless sessions that they did to on the spot just have to come up with this magic, it's really inspiring, and still inspires me to this day.
Yeah, the those soul like Breakdown Dead Ahead and
That was my first. That's the first one where I go, "Who is this?" And
yeah,
that was. Am I getting the chronology correct? That was not too far away from when Hold the Line came out,
it,
around the same
it would have
time.
predated it by about a year, I think, because this is
Okay, well, I remember hearing that and going, "This, who's that?" Because that there was clearly something more than what I was hearing, from Ace Frehley and Ted Nugent.
right. All that. Yeah,
Yeah.
when
Oh,
he got that from like Carlton,
for sure.
Oh, okay, all right.
He will attribute a lot of things to Larry, but then of course it's his heart and it's
Yeah, yeah,
his feel and his thing. But we all get, certainly Larry's a huge guy for me too. Starting with Luke, and then when I heard the first, Carlton solo record, commonly called Room 335, just one of the greatest guitar records ever. It's a textbook in bending and melodic playing and energy and direction. There's so much to glean from that record.
yeah.
Still love to hear it.
I remember getting the VHS tape of Larry Carlton and Steve Lukather instructional
Oh
video
yeah, Hot
back
Licks,
the
Hot
hot,
Licks.
yeah, and just seeing the rig that Luke was playing through and just being like, oh my, because
Yeah,
compared to some of the other rock guys that were doing the thing, his sound, while he always, I've talked to him about this, he said, oh man, that was just, I had everything in the rack turned on. Please, please forgive me. It was over. It was the '80s. We were all doing it.
yeah,
But
yeah,
back, listening to that, I just thought, oh my God, that sound, and then the way Larry would approach improvisation of doing the
yes,
super arpeggio thing, stacking major and minor triads,
yeah,
moving on thirds and that kind of stuff. But so
yeah,
yeah, those guys were just um, incredibly exciting. But then somewhere in the mix of that, um, I never thought I was going to be on stage jumping around and being like a look at me guy. So David
right.
Gilmour was a huge
There you go. Yeah.
pivotal thing. And then so I've been doing a Pink Floyd tribute touring with that for the
Oh,
last 15 years. So it's been
oh,
an
that's great. Right on, man.
amazing blessing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so right around that time that you were listening to the '70s, listening to Lou, you were
Yeah.
probably in college.
Well, yeah, just about. So that would have been, well, 78. What was I, 15, 16?
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, mid high school and just about to get into college. Yeah.
Yeah. Evansville, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm a Hoosier. And
Who?
so I was fortunate that at the age of 16, I was already in a working band. We starting off, playing well, played the bars forever, still do, right? But just playing the local bars and whatnot. But it was a steady gig, and writing some original stuff, but also doing lots of a wide variety of covers. It was just the best possible experience because I started taking lessons when I was into 15, into 16, learning how to read the basics. My teacher, Ron Pritchett, that I sought out in Evansville, was teaching me to read, but he was a really good jazz player in the style of Barney Kessel and Joe Pass, and saw that at that age, I was already playing pretty solidly and I'm gigging. So, I'm getting it together, but he was really pivotal in not just the reading thing, but also turning my ears on to other styles of music, and it was just at that point it was really anything with guitar. I just was really drawn to it and attracted to it. Which eventually, when I started college, the local university offered classical guitar as a major, and I thought, well, I know nothing about classical guitar, but mom would sure be happy if I stayed in school and I could stay
Right.
stay in town. And by then, my band, with the Taylor Bay band, we were kind of the local heroes, and we're recording, and so all these things were kind of firing at once. But I was just voraciously taking in whatever I could, regardless of the style. But yeah, that was just magic years when you're really that hungry to learn. I kind of feel that I'm that same way now, though at the very mature age of 60. I still guess first thing I do every day is get up and challenge myself and practice, and always working on different techniques, stuff I suck at, which is, there's an endless supply of things like that, and it's humbling, but it's also, you see those little bits of improvement in adding something to your lexicon, and it's so gratifying, and just trying to get it to stay there. You got to keep working on it, but it's the never ending goal of improvement, and but it taking a lifetime to realize, well, okay, you're never going to get there. So stop being bummed out about not being where you want to be, because that really is the juice. Having the energy to pursue that, but knowing that you're not going to get there, but just to keep trying.
Right. I think
Yeah.
the thing that would attract uh, all of us to your style is that you can clearly hear element, and this is the hardest, I think, thing to do as a guitarist, is to take your influences,
Hmm.
meld them into your singular voice.
Yeah.
Because I think we can hear some of the Eric Johnson stuff, maybe
Yeah.
Pat Metheny, maybe George Benson, maybe Hendrix, maybe but
Yeah.
when
Oh.
we hear your playing, we hear all the bright spots of those guys while maintaining your own voice. That is a very difficult thing to do, and which
Yeah.
leads me
Right.
into one of the most beautiful moments that I've seen in the history of watching YouTube is when you made Dan cry playing that piece of music.
Well,
And
yeah.
I
That was.
instantly ran to manuscript paper, and I had to write that out because
Oh.
I've played
Oh,
that since then. My wife was like,
yeah.
"What do you? That's really awesome." And I'm like, "You got to
Oh,
watch this clip."
that's sweet. That's so sweet.
But
It
that
was. Yeah. Thank you, man.
will that be a germ of an idea for a song? Like, because it's
Well, it is. And that was that was a composed piece of music that I started to play just because we were getting into a particular vibe with a particular sound. I started playing that piece as, oh, this might be nice to play as an example. And there's a moment where I'm about to stop because I feel like, oh, maybe this isn't so interesting. And I look at Dan, and he's unflinching, and he's looking at my hands. Oh, I bet I should continue on. And that's how it happened. But yeah, I've written a whole record of pieces not too dissimilar from that. It'll eventually it's called uh, the Outlier Nocturnes, the Bittersweets. It's kind of a two title record, but yeah, they're very Chopin influenced. In fact, Here Lies the Heart is a direct reference to where Chopin's actual heart is interred in a church in Poland, where that was his native country. But yeah, it's amazing how that moment was captured so beautifully, and we literally did have to stop filming. It was like, because Dan, he was a really moving thing, and but that's his heart. He's receptive to that feeling and isn't afraid to go there. And he and I have gotten very close over the years, and we've had moments like that where we're quite emotional in the music that we're into, and just the human being that he is, and to be affected like that it was very sweet. And so now every time I play a piece of music like that, I'll like, look out, Dan's crying somewhere. It's become a thing, that I hear about from people, and it's yeah, I couldn't be prouder of the moment just because I love the guy so much, and I know he loves me to that same degree. And so it was pretty sweet. But I got to tell you, okay, and I think the sound was recorded fairly nicely, but the sound in that room, I can't tell you what was happening. We had like 30 minutes before we were going to start filming the segment, and I was there to do some performances with the pedal show band, and there was a couple of Lone Stars in the room, had my pedal board, but Dan and I were like, man, we've never really had a time to tone quest and really go through stuff. I was like, let's try some different speakers. Okay, we tried some different speakers, but then we hooked up. Mick had this Mick was using this vertical 212 Mesa cabinet that
okay.
had two EV speakers in it.
Yeah.
They're really really heavy, high wattage speakers, and rigged for stereo. We plugged the two heads of the combo amps into the, and it was this massively beautiful, warm, clean sound. We plugged it in, and Dan and I both got the
Yeah.
chicken skin. The hairs just came up. And so when we were doing that, that was the sound that was in the room. And again, you can never really capture that. You got a couple of mics on some speakers, and it was okay. They record the guitars quite nicely, of course, but I'll always remember that feeling in the room, and it was that emotional.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah.
at its core, those are the things that, if you can get to that place that supersedes the instrument and the technique.
Right.
I think George Harrison said that
Yeah.
when Ravi walked into the room, Ravi Shankar,
Yeah.
he was the music.
Ah. I'll tell you, there was
That,
a moment. There
that's
was,
yeah,
yeah. No, no, there was there, you bring up Ravi Shankar, and it reminds me very vividly of an experience I had, like Dan had with my music. I was in Perth, Australia. I was on tour with Olivia Newton-John, and we had a night off. And we just went down to where there was going to be a band playing at a club. We lasted one song. It wasn't that happening. So we went down to this little street where there was some pubs and shops, and there was this little shawarma place. And we'd gone in to get some food, and outside is this very elderly Indian man playing sitar.
yeah,
And I stood in front of him, and within a minute, I was weeping. And
yeah,
I couldn't figure out what that was, except what you're saying about how George felt about Robbie. That's what it was. It was one of the most pure musical experiences I've ever had, and I'm very sensitive to ego. I'm very sensitive to, reasons other than the purest intention with music and the emotion that it can evoke. And when I witnessed something like that, it was just, and he just looked at me, he goes, I understand. And that's all he said. It was, I'm welling up now thinking about it, but it's amazing, what really pure music can do to you. And the fact that we're sitting here talking about it, clearly this is, a very important part of our existence. I often I'll post every now and then. I'm so thankful to have music and guitar,
yeah.
to have this really positive thing in our lives when things tend to be just going off the rails. It seems more important than ever. I guess I had that experience this morning when the Peter Jackson video for the Now and Then single, the recently released John Lennon demo, doctored up by the surviving Beatles. Really, really special. Really, really special thing there.
Yeah.
Just very thankful to have these things that move us in that way, in such a
Yeah.
positive way.
When you're younger and you hear older artists saying that music has the power to
Yeah,
change, you really don't, and then you get
sure.
life experience under your belt, and then you've witnessed,
Hmm.
like your performance or whatever it might be that moves you. It could be for me, it's every time I hear, because it's my earliest memory as a human being hearing
Oh,
music was
yeah.
"Till I Die" by the Beach Boys.
Oh my God, what a wonderful, or
That
or slightly scary song for it to be your first memory, because
Yeah,
that's
I
that's a
remember, and
that's
then
a deep tune, man.
Warmth of the Sun. Those songs,
Oh my God, those are I didn't get those till much later in my life, and wow, those are two very, very deep songs. Warmth of the Sun is, boy,
yeah,
break that down and how he modulates. It's freaking
yeah,
stunning.
and the fact that it was written
Ah,
for JFK's on the night of
that-
his assassination.
that's exactly right.
It's just, but yeah, when you hear that, that's the humanity that comes.
What is it? How's it? Was it start in C? Yeah, it's so magical. Brian just had that gift, unlike just about any other composer, to really get to that thing that we're talking about. I mean, so much is said about the Pet Sounds record, which is again truly gorgeous. But Warmth of the Sun, In My Room, Till I Die, Surfs Up, so much on that Smile record, as deep as it gets. It really, really is. But for those to be your first musical memories, that's insane. My first musical memory is the guitar solo for I Saw Her Standing There in the clip sing.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, very, very different. But again, there's that reverb drenched guitar, which
yeah,
I'm still reverberating today.
yeah.
Big
Well,
big part of my foundation.
the benefit for us, for me being born in '65 and you being born in '63, I think '63, right?
Yeah, correct.
Um, was the fact that I was 3 when I probably heard that, so that
Yeah.
would put it around '68 or so. But my
Right.
mom was a single parent, and we would drive around in her Mustang all the time.
Oh.
In days when you could have a kid sitting in the front seat and a little kids.
Rolling around wherever.
But I remember clearly, like hearing uh, the band and
Hmm.
Beach Boys,
Yeah.
Temptations,
Right.
but then you could also hear Miles Davis tune on the radio back.
Sure.
So there was no ghettoization of the musical genres. It was like it was all there for you. If it was good,
Yeah.
it was on the radio. You might hear a Sinatra tune, you might
Yeah.
whatever. But that
Sure.
definitely informs when you're coming up as a player. Above all,
Yeah.
without melody, where would we be? As much
Yeah.
as I love technical stuff,
Right.
melody,
Yeah.
whether it's you and the purveyors of that to the best for the best of us that we all look up to, you, Jeff Beck, just the lyrical players that have amazing technique, but also will never put their ego in front of the melody. Because that's at our core, the best that we could ever do is maybe not going to quite be as great as a vocal. Because that's what I think what we're aiming for, right? To deliver the emotion of the vocal.
There we go.
All right.
Reunited and it feels so good.
Gotta love the peaches and herb, right?
Pieces are so yeah, you're talking about the radio. I mean, thank God I'm a country boy into Killer Queen into 9 to 5. It didn't matter if it was a good song, back to back, Commodores, uh Earth, Wind and Fire,
Yeah.
into Ram Jam, into,
Yeah, yeah.
it could be anybody. But yeah, and that's how I felt. I guess that's maybe helped along with the jazz lessons. Like, it didn't matter if it was country or classical or jazz or whatever. I just wanted to know how to do it, and it all attracted me, especially obviously if it's a great tune. As you were saying earlier too, when you're younger, you tend to be more about, I didn't get Django Reinhardt,
Mhm.
because it wasn't electric guitar and, something dexterous in that way. But when I got around to it about 10 years ago, I was like, oh man, this is as deep as it gets. What this guy was able to achieve with essentially, two moving fingers in a grip. It's just incredible. So a lot of it's got to do with maturity, and your taste will change over time, and what you're wanting out of music is going to be different, I think, at different parts of your life. So maybe at this point for us, thankfully we had that very melodic and diverse musical exposure.
Yeah.
But that's, something that we're still drawn to, and maybe more on a deeper level, more than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the your most recent album,
Mm.
kind of interested in just such a great selection of tunes, both with vocalists and
Oh yeah, yeah.
stuff. But the song Grace, just man,
Thank you, man.
what a beautiful, beautiful tune.
Well, thank you. That's yeah, I've told the story, but it's worth mentioning that I'd gone to see, it was one of those Experience Hendrix tours, and Eric Johnson was going to be there, which of course he's a hero and friend, and Zach Wild, and good Lord, who else was going to be? This is just such a great array of players. Buddy Guy, but I was particularly really wanting to go because I knew that Billy Cox was going to be there,
Yeah.
and the last surviving band of gypsies or Experience member at that point, and you know, I thought, well, it would be great to meet him, take a photo, have him sign my Band of Gypsies record. I'm still a fan like that. I still do these things. So we get there, and me and a couple of friends went, and we're just walking in the venue. It was like a casino just over the border from. I'm in North Texas, of course, and over it was the casino in Durant.
Choctaw?
Yeah, no, not. Is it Choctaw or is it?
Was it the
Yeah, it was the Choctaw, exactly that. I get that and the Windstar confused because they're both right over the border. Anyway, it was the Choctaw. Durant, I remember because as Buddy Guy was getting ready to go on, I was backstage because we were visiting with Eric Johnson, and it was kind of chilly, backstage. And Buddy was I offered him my jacket. I said, sorry, it's not polka dot, man. He goes, yeah, man, it's kind of chilly here, isn't it? He goes, yeah, they don't call it Sweet Home Durant. I got Buddy Guy to chuckle a little bit, but going back, so yeah, we walked into the venue before the show started, and there's Billy Cox and his wife behind the merch table. They were selling stuff. You could pay a little bit for the autograph or the picture or whatever. And I was over the moon to meet Billy, which is a really gracious, sweet guy. But I started to talk to his wife Brenda a bit, and actually talked to her quite a bit more than Billy. Just Billy was busy meeting a lot of folks, and she and I really resonated, and we're just chatting. And at some point, it might have come up in conversation that they'd been married something like over 50 years.
Oh, wow.
And so anytime, through my life, especially after my yesterday was my 27th wedding anniversary.
Oh,
So
man, congratulations. That's
yeah, thank you, man. I'm very blessed. My wife Monica and I have been together that long. And so anytime I've ever met an older married couple that have made it, it's like I always ask, okay, knowing that there's no real answer to this, but I love the answers I get. I said, okay, what's the secret to Brenda? And she lowers her head, she looks at me and she goes, Grace.
uh,
And that was a title. And I in that instant, I knew I there was a world behind that word. I knew what she meant because we're imperfect as human beings, and it takes a lot of forgiveness and understanding on both ends of any relationship, right? And but it was a beautiful statement. And anyway, it was just a great hang. And I went home that night, and that tune just kind of wrote itself. Forgot it. Brian Wilson, actually, when you think about it,
yeah,
that
yeah.
little bit right there is a bit Brian. But yeah, so but in that the song actually sat for quite a while, and fast forward to you mentioning the Electric Truth record, it all came about because I reached out to Josh Smith, the great guitar player, and I, like everybody else, was seeing his clips of his band on YouTube, and I saw a variety of videos. I just reached out to him somehow. I don't know how I got his number, but just to say, hey man, want to tell you I'm such a big fan, I'm really digging your playing. And he said, yeah man, well, we should hang, we should record something. I just finished my studio.
Yeah.
And because I was getting to know him a little bit just telephonically, it wasn't the kind of guy that's like, hey man, let's get together, dude.
Mhm.
It wasn't LA at all. It was the real deal. And I could tell, and I thought that's a great idea, I'd love to do that. And we quickly just found a time that it was going to be a few months later. I was going to be out for the NAMM show in January 2020. So I started kind of writing some tunes, some Telecaster type things, because I was being influenced by Josh a little bit. Like the EWF tune it's Telecaster because of Al McKay Jr. It was a Earth, Wind, and Fire kind of thing. But we just found a few tunes that he dug that I'd already written, and we kind of co-wrote some things over the phone and through emails.
Yeah.
And just got together, and basically we did the record in 2.5 days. And we had about a day to go of overdubs to finish up. And of course, I was going to come back in March. And of course, March 2020, nobody went anywhere.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, but it was such a happy, just kind of serendipitous thing where I just reached out to this guy that I was really digging,
Mhm.
and wanted to just express my gratitude and affection. He's like, well, yeah, man, and just kind of established this friendship. And postscript, Bonamassa is going to be in town tomorrow, and Josh is coming in overnight on the tour bus. I'm going to pick him up, and there's this barbecue place he wants to go to in Fort Worth called Goldie's.
Oh, yeah. I've been there.
I'm
Been
going to
there.
pick him up like I'm no exaggeration. It's going to be like 6 or 7 in the morning, depending, because you got to wait in line because
Yeah.
they're only open for 2 days a week from 11 to 2. So he's like, this is like a thing that he's been wanting to do. So he told me he was going to Uber. I said, dude, I will come get you. I will pick you up. I'll be your Uber man. So who knows what will come out of tomorrow's hang? But if nothing else, we'll have some tasty lunch in Fort Worth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those are usually the encounters that are the greatest currency in life. All the things, all the accolades and wonderful,
Yeah.
amazing financial remunerations are awesome. But those kind of contacts that end up being
Yeah,
lifelong friends, and
yeah, for sure.
that's
But wait. You're getting paid? What is this remuneration thing?
yeah, well, and yeah, it's
Wait a minute.
yeah,
There's money.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that was, I remember my first gig when I was 13. It was my own eighth grade graduation dance, and my older brother Brian had a brother. He had a friend that was, his age, so like 4 years older than me. He was a drummer, and he had this gig coming up, and it was to be this graduation dance. Happened to be my own eighth grade graduation dance, but he didn't have a band. He had a bass player, but needed a guitar player. And my brother goes to Glenn and said, "Hey, my brother's been sounding pretty good in the bedroom. Maybe get him to play." And so they hired, they got me in the band. I'm 13. They said, "Oh yeah, and you'll get paid $25." I went, "What?
But
There's
yeah.
money. There's money." I've been paid a lot less many times since then. But anyway, there's like some gigs do pay a little bit. Who knows?
Yeah. So
There's still potential. But I'm being silly, but taking to heart, yes. When you cross paths with certain people that you do feel an affinity with, and it's not based on any particular. I didn't have an agenda when I reached out to Josh. It turned into something that was, hopefully a lot of fun for both of us. It was, we had a great time, and people seemed to enjoy that record. And I would never have done it. That was kind of the thing that I wanted, when we got the idea for me to come out there to record. I said, look, I'd love this not to be, I don't want it to be my band. I don't want to produce. I just want to come out and play, and you produce, you choose the players, because I always dug whoever he was working with, and there was always a really nice organic thing happening with the guys that he was always playing with. So, man, you choose the guys, let's just do this, and that was liberating for me. It took some pressure off in some ways, but it was a lovely different pressure, because I'm usually producing or co-producing with my bass player Mike Dane and for my own stuff. But here now in the room is this other incredible guitar player. So you're on a little different behavior, I think, and
yeah.
but it's a good thing to have that energy in the room. And and as him, I would say we co-produced it, but he was really kind of at the helm. And there would be times where he would have ideas. Hey man, try this. Fucking great. Yeah, I like that. That's cool. Get me out of my comfort zone, maybe go in places that maybe I wouldn't have gone. So that was really cool, and I hope we get to do some more of it in the future.
Yeah. And it seems like it was a very organic, not a labored thing, just a really fun. I mean, it was a hang,
Yeah,
learning
yeah,
and pushed in a creative way, but
sure.
it's a fun. I mean, looking back on that, you'll always remember. Besides having a great album, just
Yeah,
the experience of doing it. That's when
it
it's
was fun, and I hadn't really. Well, I'd recorded some in I guess I'd recorded in L.A. with Simon Phillips for some of his solo records. But it was nice to get in with a room full of cats, and these were heavy hitters. Travis Carlton on bass, good Lord. No pressure there with a dad like Larry, and he's a great player in his own right. And Darren Johnson on keyboards, who had worked with Miles and a variety of other amazing players. And, you know, um, yeah, just really, really enjoyed working with everybody in the room. It was fantastic.
yeah. I I think I have almost all your recordings, but the one that really was the most meaningful, I had just moved to Dallas, and I was commuting back and forth to Cincinnati to do the Pink Floyd shows.
Oh, wow.
I hadn't established my teaching business, and I opened up a guitar school right down from Tolbert's, where you guys
Oh,
would.
yeah.
And so in the evenings, I would just, after teaching, the last thing you would think you would want to do is play more guitar, but I would just transcribe, and I
Oh, yeah.
just discovered the Sergeant Pepper record.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
All of them were
Yeah.
immaculate, fantastic, but She's Leaving Home just that one made me weep when I heard it for the first time. I was like,
Wow.
I
Well,
just, man, that's
thank you,
it
man.
captured absolutely echoes of
That was the one that I think was the one I labored over more than any other, because of that feeling. It was the only, it was, and I think Brian Wilson is part of this. It was the only Beatles tune that would ever get me to that point of emotion. It was later in life when you realize the sentimentality and the meaning of the lyric. But you can, he's clearly uh, getting into that emotional thing, and so every arrangement on the record I spent quite a bit of time with, but that one for sure I really wanted to try to capture what the tune had given me, and so if I've passed that on, then I guess mission accomplished here. And it's just such a beautiful tune. With all these things, it was kind of a hobby for a bit. I just wanted to see if I could play the tunes, because I'd already been dabbling in some Beatle arrangements. I was doing Strawberry Fields with my band, but I never thought of, hey, let's do a whole record of Beatle stuff, or let's certainly not do the whole Sergeant Pepper record. That seems kind of insane. But it just kind of morphed into that with some encouragement from a friend in Italy that said, well, you should do some more Beatles the next tour, or do a whole night of Beatles.
Right.
And at first I was just like, oh, there's no way I could do that. But then, well, what if what if I just started dabbling as a hobby? And that's when, eventually Lucy in the Sky, and well, what if I could do the whole record?
Yeah.
Anyway, so but very thankful to have gone through the process, and thankful that I finally had the courage to release it, because that went back and forth many times throughout. Once I had started, had got the basic tracks done, about half of them I kept the tracks that I did live with the trio, and the other half I had to kind of rework how I was doing it just to improve either the performance or the tuning. There was a lot of issues with the guitar in general, right? As we know. So I spent a lot of time, but I really wasn't sure along the way, multiple times, whether it's going to work or not. But again, thankful, and I couldn't have gotten it to that point had I not already done the Resolution record the way I'd done that. In that was that whole record also was just one guitar, bass, and drums.
Yeah.
Had I not gone through that process and kind of figuring out ways of playing, chord kind of chord melody things, not quite jazz, but the same ultimate goal, representing the song in the best possible way, melody and harmony. So it was all part of that just growth, I guess, as a player, and just trying to push myself. And that's what the Resolution record was, kind of a turning point for me, where I kind of threw away the way we'd been doing all the records, rhythm guitars, double this, and you
Right.
know that was a nice catalyst, I should say.
Yeah, it was obvious that of your love and reverence for the Beatles, but it was just you took a lot of care in the arrangement and just the way that you're going about representing everything, because it was all there, it was fully formed, it was lovely. And I did
Yeah,
marvel at the intonation because as we know with guitar, thirds and that kind of stuff in certain parts of the
yeah,
be just a bitch to keep that stuff in tune. And if you've got a bar that's moving at all,
yeah.
I just
At that point, my bar would not have been moving. It is barely moving now. Like on this main 1800 that I've had for so long, just
yeah.
just about a half step on that G string, so just enough. And I really like having that little bit. But I don't think I could have done it but at that point it was on the deck, no doubt about it. But yeah, I tried everything. The fan or true temperament frets, the fuzzy feet, and a lot of those things are cool and may fix certain things, but there's no perfect solution except learning how to accommodate. I remember I had the pure joy and blessing of standing next to Tommy Emmanuel while he was sound checking one day in Dallas. He invited me to come out, and I was on the side of the stage. Andy, come here. I want you to stand here. I want you to hear what I'm hearing, because he had this lovely AER amps and his monitors, and it was truly one of the most gorgeous tones. Of course, if you know Tommy, it's just probably the greatest musician I've ever encountered. And I was I was yelling at him while I was playing. You've got auto tune in your fingers, man. And he goes, "You've got it too, man." And I think along the way, Eric Johnson, Joe Satriani, different players and different types of things. But both, there's certain players out there that really, really play in tune. And, the more experience you get, there's ways of cheating, along the way with how you're fingering things, how you're fretting things, and compensating within, or even cheating the tuning. Like if you got to figure out, well, I might have to flatten that B string for this song because of these things that aren't quite right. So you figure that out along the way. But boy, it makes a huge difference. And whether the listener's ear is that attuned, so to speak, to that phenomenon, I think they feel it, if it is or isn't, you
Right.
know, that type of intonation. And but I again didn't take it lightly. My engineer who did a lot of the guitar overdubs for Rob Wexler, I used to have the Spurzell tuners on this old Ibanez. And one day we decided, well, those are the things. The ratio was 12-1. I'd heard these Godos were 16-1, and that made a big difference. So I remember the day he did the reinstallation. He was drilling out screws that were breaking off, and it was a little harrowing. But we were we were willing to do anything, just to try to get things sounding better. And so it was a lovely process to go through. But boy, still, I mean, still tuning is always going to be an issue, but you learn along the way how to kind of compensate.
Yeah. The we're the beneficiaries of your uh, dedication to tone and to uh, intonation and just inspiring us with your playing. And the one thing that I always marveled at is your delay sound. And
Yeah.
having, having picked up a halo pedal myself,
Well,
it's
there's your key right there. That echo is the culmination of many years of
yeah,
just being a fan of that kind of sound. Uh,
yeah.
but I hope you dig it. I hope you're digging.
Oh, I love it quite a bit. I use two delays a lot of times
Yeah.
for the
That's a David Gilmour thing, right?
Gilmore thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Um,
that is a bit of what got me on the path of the dotted eight quarter thing was when I was working with Simon Phillips. Because at that point I was probably just using my single, around 475 delay. And let's, here, I've got this delay set up as I learned this from David Gilmour. I guess he'd worked with him on, the White City record, probably other things. Simon's done so much. And when I heard that, I'm like, oh, I love this. So I guess it all comes from
yeah,
David, but then the modulated thing too, along the way with the right EP3 that's just out of tune just enough. And then I was using the deluxe Memory Man Electro Harmonics, which had a modulation available on the repeats, which is the key. You don't want the chorus guitar a la Andy Summers. You want replicating that out of tune repeat and what that can do. And then which I replicated really, really well for quite a while with the Strymon. I always called it like 91 or 92% of what I was hearing. But when I was, and it was thanks to Daniel Steinhardt when I was, wanting to find somebody that, would collaborate with me to get to that place that I was really hearing, that I was wanting something. That the Strymon was great, but it was so complicated and did 1,000 things, and I needed one or two sounds. And without flinching, he said, "Oh, Robert Keeley, he's the guy." And we were at a NAMM show, and he took me over and introduced me to Robert. He goes, "That sounds like a great idea." As things go, it took a couple of years to get around to really working on it. But once we did start working, about a year and a half of complete dedication to getting it right. And the beauty is that the Keeley folks are in Oklahoma City, which is just 3 hours away north from, as you know, since you lived in this area, three hours north. So it wasn't a matter of sending me, here's the latest mock-up, what do you think, and me trying to communicate, oh well, it needs more air or whatever. We could be in the room every single time together. We'd have these sessions. They drove here 6 different times, I drove up there 6 different times, to be in the room, to feel when it was right, not only hear it but really kind of get to the core of all the best of all. We listened to all my different echoes, the old tapes, the old memory men, if that's the plural, memory men, the Strymon, how I was using that. And at every juncture, we'd change things and like, oh, that's better, but we're losing something here. But for them to want to be willing to go through that,
yeah.
you know like I've done with my Mike Dane recording me or Rob Wexler, when we've made those decisions to like, are we going for okay, or this has to be great. So there was no way I was going to start using, even to have a signature piece of gear. It's never about, oh, hey, I've got my name on something, let's hope this sells. It genuinely has to be something I'm going to use. So if I'm going to take the Strymon off the board and not use my other things, it's got to be as good. But we wanted it to just to be better. And again, for what I was wanting to hear, this was all selfish. Again, you know, like all these things along the Pepper record I wasn't thinking commercial success. It was, this is what I really in my heart want to do. I want to work hard to get it. And so that pedal, very, very thankfully it's gone on to sell a few echoes, let's just say, but it was all completely selfish. This is just what I wanted. I want this one pedal to do, and it does a nice variety of things, quite honestly, but I'll use two sounds all night with an expression pedal. But that basic halo sound, the dotted eighth quarter, the modulation's really incredibly well tuned in. That's all I need. But I set up a slap, and then we've got the other types of ratios, the Tom Scholz ratio or the Hank Marvin Apache, a couple of extra things or some single delays for that type of thing, and it does it amazingly well. But my sound, you have no guesswork. You plug it in, patch 1A. That's what I'm using. No exception. That's exactly what I use. So
Yeah,
that
that's brilliant.
so but kudos to those guys for going through it and not being frustrated. Like their passion were equal to mine, if not even more so. So to have that collaborative relationship was, again, thanks to Daniel going, oh, Robert's your guy. Let me introduce you. Great. Couldn't have tried to plan it. It just was this organic thing. Most of the great things, like you were mentioning earlier, most of the great things in life tend to be that way.
And
Some kind of
Robert,
magic.
very generous guy. I was doing a series of these clinics called David Gilmour Academy things.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In fact, I do the Floyd stuff, and he
Nice.
had a pair of the Keeley Dark Side pedals,
Oh, yeah.
incorporating that into, and so that was, and we had only met through like a mutual, but he was so kind and so thoughtful, and his love and enthusiasm
Yeah.
for all things guitar is just contagious. What a beautiful guy he is. So that was a very,
I couldn't agree more. Yes, and much love to Robert and the whole team. Aaron Pierce, his right hand man, Aaron Tackett. Yeah, just so many great components of that whole company. But yeah, of course, it starts at the top. Robert's got the heart and the passion, but everybody there does. And that, again, it was largely Aaron Pierce and Robert and I in a room that got the halo to where we were hoping to get it. But I like, no, the dark side, that's the one that's got the fuzz in it, right?
yeah, it's got the fuzz. And it's
That's
got,
one of my that's one of my favorite fuzzes, actually. Yeah.
yeah, man,
Yeah.
you know,
It's cool. Right on, right on.
I use that for a part of echoes for a fuzz bit, but I also do. I don't think I ever use one pedal. I've got
Hmm,
many gain stacking things going on to try to.
sure.
I use that with the one of the old BK Butler tube drivers that.
Yeah.
But anyway, we could we could
Yeah.
talk
I need to go to your Gilmore school. That sounds fun.
about gear forever. The one thing I'm super excited about. It seems to me like you're launching a, a new course.
Oh,
It's completely on the certain, and I don't know a lot about it yet. I haven't done my research,
okay.
but it seems like completely different from the approach that the typical
Yeah.
trying to bring out parts of your inner musician creatively through being expressive, less about the nuts and bolts of arpeggios and
Well,
but
there's plenty of educational stuff about those mechanics. And as I was saying, when I get up in the morning, I'm finding stuff to work on, and I get massively inspired by so many of the players and teachers out there. But this another thing that came about very organically. I was going over to Italy to do a couple of weeks of concerts and master classes, and a good friend of mine, Chi Romano, who's a great guitar player, was setting all this up. And we literally had like one day off in this whole 2 week span. and he asked me, my friend Thomas Colasante, I've done some instructional videos for him. He wants you to record something for him. I'm like, oh man, well, we've got the one day, but what am I going to do? Well, what have I got? And it was actually Thomas that came up with the idea. Well, what about, because he's got these really young, great, musicians that work with him as his video and recording team. He said, well, we all talked about it. What we love about your playing, Andy, is that we love that you tell a story.
Yes.
So he came up with the idea of the art of guitar storytelling. And at first I was like, oh man, that's a pretty lofty thing to say, not much less. But then I got excited about it. It was like, wait a minute, okay, this is something that I haven't heard many people really speak to. And that got me interested. And that got me like, okay, let me see and this is happening in 3 weeks. It's like, so what? Okay, I had to come up with a concept and the overriding ideas. But Thomas and I, we quickly, once we met in Naples when I first came over on that trip, we realized, oh, we got on well, and there was so many just life philosophies that we seemed to really resonate with, and it just made it easy for. So this course, it's called the Art of Guitar Storytelling. I think it launched, maybe it's been a couple of months now, but I'm suppose we can give people links. But I'm really proud of it because he provided an atmosphere where I could very just comfortably sit like we're talking now, and I had a basic outline, but it's really me communicating in real time about all kinds of different things, from motivic development and time and tone, and kind of where my melodic direction and sense comes from. And I try to, just kind of illuminate that in the most direct and expressive way to try to inspire and help people bring that out of themselves. And no, I'm really, really proud of it. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I do. I'm not the best self promotion guy, but now that you brought it up, it's like, yeah. And he's a guy that, his company's called Music Easer, MUSICEEZER, Music Easer. And his website is Music Off. But it's a very well known uh, web presence in Italy, but he's obviously branching out into worldwide stuff now. And so I was very proud to be a part of that with him. And yeah, so we'll see. Well, stemming from that type of teaching, I have a lot more ideas of maybe some projects we can do in the future. So who knows?
Yeah. I think the difficulty for any guitar player in this day and age, there's so much stuff online
Yeah.
that serves to intimidate and
Right.
makes you feel like, oh my God, if I can't play like Tosin Abasi,
Yeah. Right.
whomever that might be, with the
Yeah.
technical facility. But the thing
Yeah.
I love about this course is it sounds to me like something about getting your creativity out and not thinking about anything necessarily ridiculously fat. If you're
Right.
playing a lap steel guitar, you could use those same concepts. If you're playing,
It's
being a
yeah.
lyrical player, a call and response mentality of building, what
Yeah.
you're playing now is a result of what came before it. What you're about to play is predicated on what you're playing at the moment.
It's a lot of, yeah, it's tying in a lot of lifestyle. It's tying in a lot of just how I am as a person and how I function in the world is very, uh, similar to how I play music. It's all kind of the same stuff. And I agreed. If you watch Tosin or Jack Gardner or Nick Johnson, there's so many wonderful players that I'll go check out. Yeah, it would be easy to go, oh man, why even bother? But again, what I spoke to earlier in that, you know, realizing at a certain point, okay, I'll never get to the place where I want to be or think I could be. But if I realize if I'm working towards it consistently, if I'm trying on the daily basis to improve, at least honoring whatever gift I have, then that's success. That just being the best possible John you can be, being the best possible Andy I can be. We don't have to be anybody else. And like you complimented me greatly earlier by saying you'll hear my influence, but somehow it's me. I couldn't have tried to do that. It was only natural from my love of all these people that have played and come before me, or currently, and loving and absorbing what I can. And David Bowie said that the best about his own career. He says, "I'm not particularly innovative. I'm a collector."
Yeah.
And I love these things, and I'm taking what I love, and it comes out as me. The Beatles were the same. They took American rock and roll and Motown and came out as them. They were very sometimes very very directly taking, But there you go. It's we are a product in a lot of ways of what's come before us. But then how we distill it. Well, when you take Warmth of the Sun, Until I Die, well, that's a massive foundation for you. If that's been ingrained in a certain way, um, that will make you once you combine that with David Gilmour and all the things that you've gotten into from 70s radio, that's going to be original. That's going to be very unique to you because it's what you loved in your heart, And so, if we're the type of player that only listens to maybe one genre or only listen to Stevie Ray, which is, I'll never be able in a million years play like that. But I love it. I might get a bit from it. And if your goal is to be, an SRV cover band, then there's nothing wrong with that. That's a wonderful aspiration. But for those that enjoy the variety of things, and it's going to eventually, you can't help but be you. In your physiology, everybody's fingers are going to sound different. The way you learn to produce tone out of the instrument, it's a lifelong thing. But some guys, when you look at Eddie Van Halen and certain players that just so obviously had a sound and an identifiable personality early on, that they were taken from certain things, but they caught fire at an early age and just through their brilliance, established such a unique sound and tone. Pat Metheny, once he got into those early ECM recordings, man, unmistakable. You hear that sound and just go, "Well, that's Pat."
Yeah, it's better to be inspired and moved and just try to find your own thing and just be. I think there's so many people that love your playing, but for the world class players that all speak about you,
Yeah.
obviously they love your playing, but they love you as a person. They're like,
Oh, man.
Andy's the, and
Well,
that's the most important thing. It's great to be a
oh, thank you, man.
musician, but the way people refer to you
Hmm.
and the esteem that in the guitar community for fans and your contemporaries, they all speak of you with great love and admiration as a human being. So that's,
Yeah.
man, you're
Well, I'm humble. I'm trying to think of stupid things to say, but I'll just say thank you. It's like it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to take that
yeah.
thing, but no, but bringing as my son who's now 19 along the way, he would see me interact with people, maybe publicly or at the groceries, like, "Dad, did you know that person?" I said, "No, just smiling, saying, hey, I said, buddy, it's not that hard. Just
Yeah.
treat people the way you want to be treated, be nice, just smiling at somebody, especially these days, man. People are going through stuff. The world has history of it. We've always been going through stuff, but things seem particularly, rife with division and whatnot. But man, at the core, we're human beings that just really want that connection, of kindness, and it's not that hard. So if I'm thought of in that way, from my friends and peer group and any fans along the way, I mean, yeah, that is to me the most important thing. It's
Well,
just being a kind human being.
yeah. When we wrap this up, I'll walk into the other room. My wife has her office, and
Yeah.
I'll say to her, "Can you believe it?" She's seen this date circled on the calendar.
Oh
I
man.
told her, I was like,
Oh,
if I did no other one, and not to put you on the spot here, but I'm like, he's
oh,
just a guiding light for us all, and just
oh,
such a
man.
great guy. And I've met
Thank
him
you.
once or twice. I met you at Tolbert's once when I was talking to Nick, and you told me about
Okay.
your affinity for Grippo's potato chips.
Cincinnati. That would be the thing I would bring up about
Yeah,
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Folks, if okay, that and what I love about Grippos is that they're not nationally distributed, but now, of course, with Amazon, go get you if you're a barbecue chip fan, GRIPPO''S Grippos barbecue. You will not be disappointed. It is easily the best barbecue chip.
Yeah, because
Uh,
that when we met, you were playing bass in that surf band, and you guys were on a break. And I was talking to Nick, and he introduced me and said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Yeah, from Cincinnati, but I just recently moved here. I'm right down the street." And you go, "Cincinnati, Grippo's barbecue chips." And
yeah,
I mean,
what's on my mind,
yeah, I mean, for me, that I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's a pretty big. I mean, we get Skyline Chili and Great
Skyline Chili,
Cream and
which
Montgomery.
I haven't had Skyline yet, believe it or not. Every time I've been to Cincinnati, it just doesn't. When you're traveling, you're not really sure if you that's what you want to go grab, but I
Yeah.
will eventually maybe next time.
Well, again, thank you. Besides being an incredible conversationalist, a wonderful musician, you just as wonderful as they come. It's everything I had hoped.
It takes two, my friend John, and we persevered today. People don't know that we were having trouble connecting with our technology and whatever, but
You see, there'll be some masterful editing and
yeah. And then my power went out. Your power had gone out. It's like, all right. But yeah, we made it work, and I'm honored that you invited me. So man, hopefully we'll do it again sometime. And
so the Rangers world champions.
I know okay, so I'm a fair weather fan, and I wouldn't have even been aware that they were having a good season, to be honest. But of course, when I found out, oh, playoffs, yeah, I'll start watching that. So it was very exciting, seeing them go through what they did with the Astros and then the Diamondbacks. Well, it was very exciting because I was a big baseball kid before I had to when I was in eighth grade. That's when because I was playing little league and whatnot, and I was a pretty decent ball player. It was like keep playing baseball or get a job, and so I could afford to buy records and save up for guitar stuff. So that was the my fork in the road at that point in my life. But I loved baseball. I collected baseball cards like a lot of kids in the 60s and 70s, and so still love the sport. Just don't keep up nearly as much with the pro sports these days. But I enjoyed the season finales basically. I'll watch the playoffs and Super Bowls and whatnot. And I'll watch the Cowboys
Yeah, it's hard to be
occasionally.
a Cowboys fan around here or any other place, but I've been a fan since 2013, and man,
Yeah.
I get more grief about wearing any related.
Yeah, I'm gonna like the Chiefs as well. I gotta say, been a Mahomes fan, but anyway, but all good stuff, and it's just like any if you to watch the Olympics too, it's the same thing when you recognize people that have gone and spent their lives dedicated to trying to be great at what they do. It's hard not to be inspired by that, you know, and letting that spill over into your musical endeavors. It's always good to be reminded of
Yeah,
people that work that hard.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you have a lovely weekend in McKinney, and
Thank you. Well, I'm going from, like I say, I'm taking Josh Smith to barbecue in Fort Worth at about 7 in the morning. So I'll let you know how it goes.
that'd be great. All right, man. It's great talking to you, Andy.
Thanks, John. Great talking to you too, man. Let us do it again sometime. All
Yeah, I'll
right.
send you an email just to get some links for things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once I have a basic format, I'm trying to do
Sure.
all of season three together, and it looks like we're probably going to end up with around 15 or 20
Oh,
episodes.
great.
Uh,
Awesome. Awesome. Well,
once
congrats, man. That's freaking awesome.
yeah, and the folks couldn't have been sweeter. It's Dave Gregory from XTC, who's Dan's
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I've met Dave.
guy named Ned Evett and plays the glass guitar. That's he and Joe Satriani have a company together. Ned does all of his animation for.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know that guy.
Yeah, I'll send you some links to his stuff. And
Yeah.
Dweezil Zappa next
Man.
week. Tomo Fujita, however you pronounce it.
Yeah, I think it's Fujita, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
Tomo's a sweetheart. I love Tomo so much, man. He's a force for good, that's for sure.
Jennifer Batten, Mike,
Yeah.
just some other really super cool folks. And
Awesome.
the 14-year-old kid in me is just ecstatic to be able to do something like this. It's like to
Uh,
talk to your heroes and for them to be lovely human beings is
well, it's pretty amazing, and most of the folks you'll encounter, there's a reason that they're able to do this for a living. It's usually because they know how to treat people and they're good to folks. Maybe not 100%, but 99.9. we're,
yeah,
we're blessed.
I Carl Verheyen was one of the first ones, and he said, "Well, when you do talk to Andy, give him my best." He said he's
Uh,
a fabulous person. Great.
Well, Carl as well, man. What an incredible player.
So,
Very, very much so.
happy anniversary to you, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, 27. I said looking forward to the next 27. We're gonna keep going. I
All
like
right.
it.
Have a lovely weekend, man.
Well, hello to your wife as well, and you guys have a great one, man. Thank you, John.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to the Guitar Hang Podcast, interviews with noteworthy guitar players from around the world. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications to stay updated on our latest episodes.